$223.60. That is the monthly AWS bill for one small web app. One server, one database, one load balancer. Nothing exotic, nothing at scale. This is the same app on a $6 box in Germany. Same code, same traffic. And the gap has almost nothing to do with compute. Compute is the cheapest line on that AWS bill. 4 other lines do the damage. So I am going to price both, line by line, off the published rates today. Then I will show you the 3 walls that send you straight back to AWS. Hit one of them and this whole plan falls apart. Start with the part people argue about. A T4G.small on demand is $12.26 a month. The German box is $5.99, twice the price. That is the entire compute story. Twice is not a video, 37 times is. So where do the other $211 come from? 4 services most people stop reading past, and one of them is bigger than everything else combined. Data transfer out. AWS gives you 100 gigabytes a month free, then charges 9 cents per gigabyte. Push 1 terabyte to your users, and that single line is $83.16. $83 to send bytes you already paid to compute and store out of a building and down a wire. Hetzner includes 20 terabytes of outbound traffic on its EU cloud servers inside that $5.99. After that, it bills €1 per terabyte, 9 cents a gigabyte against a tenth of a cent, 90 times on identical bytes. Second line, the NAT Gateway. It is the box that lets a server in a private subnet reach the internet, and it costs 4.5 cents an hour simply to exist, $32.85 a month before it moves a single packet. Then AWS charges another 4.5 cents for every gigabyte that goes through it. Your own traffic, metered twice. Third, the application load balancer, 2.25 cents an hour, so $16.43 a month before your first request, plus capacity units on top of that. Call it $22 to put TLS in front of one application. On the VPS, that job belongs to Caddy, and the entire Caddy config for it is 4 lines long. Fourth, and this one is recent, since February 1st, 2024, AWS charges half a cent an hour for every public IPv4 address on your account, attached or idle, it does not matter. $3.65 a month per address. Hetzner charges 50 euro cents for the same address, then the managed extras. A db.t4g.micro running Postgres is $11.68 a month, plus 11.5 cents per gigabyte of storage. CloudWatch takes 50 cents for every gigabyte of logs you ingest, which means your own debug logging costs 5 times more per gigabyte than shipping video to a customer. Added up, $12.26 of compute, $3.20 of disk, $13.98 of database, $22.27 of load balancer, $78.93 of NAT Gateway, $83.16 of Egress, $730 of IP addresses, $250 of logs, $223.60 every month forever. The same workload on one CX23 is €5.99. 2 cores, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 40 gigabytes of NVMe, 20 terabytes of traffic, 37 to 1. And notice what did not change to get there. Not the code, not the traffic, the architecture wrapped around it. And $5 buys a real machine now. DigitalOcean will sell you a droplet for 4. Vultr and Akamai both start at 5 with a terabyte of transfer. Contabo hands you 4 cores for about the same. The floor of this market got a lot better while the rest of us were learning Terraform. Before you go and cancel your account though, that ratio is real, and it is also the easy half of the story. The hard half is what breaks. But to get there, I have to explain why any of this works in 2026 when it was a bad idea in 2015 and a worse one in 2018. 10 years ago, running your own box meant you owned Nginx configs, systemd units, certbot cron jobs, and a deploy script that worked right up until the day it did not. People moved to managed services to stop doing all that, not to save money. The alternative was a second job you were not being paid for. What changed is the layer on top. Coolify is an open source control panel you install on your own server. Push to Git, it builds the container, fetches the certificate, and swaps the running version out underneath. 59,000 stars on GitHub, 280 odd one-click services, and it shipped 4.1.2 in June. Deploy does the same job with a different set of opinions, and it has 36,000 stars after 2 years of existing. 2 years. That is the part worth pausing on, because it tells you this tooling is new. The economics did not change, the ergonomics did. If a control panel still feels like too much surface area, there is Kamal. It is what 37 signals actually run in production, and it is about as plain as deployment gets. It SSHs into your servers, starts your Docker image, and moves traffic across. No control plane, no Kubernetes, 14,000 stars. And the load balancer you just deleted comes back as Caddy, 74,000 stars, and automatic HTTPS is the default behavior rather than a plugin you bolt on. You write the domain name, it obtains the certificate and renews it on its own. That is your ALB in a text file. So the whole replacement stack is a compose file and a Caddy file. App, Postgres, Redis, reverse proxy, TLS. Roughly 40 lines of YAML you can read in one sitting, living in the same repository as the code, on a machine you can SSH into and actually look at. Now, I am wary of this genre, because this is usually the point where the video turns into an advert. So let us go and find the largest company that has actually done it, at a scale where the numbers were published and the receipts exist. In 2022, 37 Signals, the company behind Basecamp and High, spent $3.2 million on cloud, and it was already optimized. Long service commitments, careful right-sizing, the full FinOps routine. In June 2023, David Heinemeier Hansen published a post titled, "We have left the cloud, 7 applications out of AWS in 6 months. What replaced them was 2 pallets of Dell servers, 4,000 vCPUs, 7.5 terabytes of RAM, 384 terabytes of NVMe, about $500,000 of hardware upfront, roughly $700,000 by the time it was finished, and the entire cost was recouped during 2023. The cloud bill went from $3.2 million a year down to $1.3, $2 million a year saved. And the detail I keep coming back to is the dull one. The ops team stayed exactly the same size. His phrasing was no hidden dragons of additional workload, and that is the claim most engineers assume has to be a lie. The $1.3 million that remained was almost all S3, locked into a 4-year contract, 10 petabytes raw, 5 petabytes after deduplication, 5 billion objects. They moved all of it onto their own Pure Storage arrays, and the yearly bill fell from about $1.5 million to under $200,000. One detail from that migration says more about egress pricing than any chart I can draw for you. AWS waived the exit bill. $250,000 of data transfer written off on the condition that they left completely inside 60 days, and you cannot use Direct Connect for it. It goes over the public internet. 10 petabytes, 5 billion objects moved over that public internet by a Rails app. Their principal programmer summed the whole thing up in 4 words. There was no downtime, projected savings over 5 years north of $10 million, and it is not only outsiders saying this. In 2023, Amazon-owned Prime Video team published a write-up on their video quality service. They collapsed a distributed serverless architecture back into a single ECS task and cut infrastructure cost by 90%. The serverless version had hit a hard scaling limit at 5% of expected load. GEICO went further still. Over $300 million a year on cloud, now repatriating at least half its workloads by 2029, with 50% lower cost per compute core and 60% per gigabyte of storage. But read the rest of it. They had to hire firmware engineers, BIOS integration people, hardware validation staff, and the direction is measurable now. A February 2026 survey of 212 IT decision makers found 75% had already pulled something back out of public cloud. 84% were over their storage budget. 46% named Egress fees as the cause. Flexera measured the same year that 29% of cloud spend is wasted, the first increase in 5 years. So this is not a fringe opinion held by 3 people on Hacker News. It is a fairly large amount of money moving in one direction, which brings me to the walls. Wall 1 is Throughput. VPS Benchmarks runs a database-heavy Rails application against every plan it tests, and across the last 12 months, the median result is 70 requests per second. A Hetzner CX22 topped out at 35, a 2 GB DigitalOcean droplet managed 15, which sounds fatal until you look at what is being measured. That is an uncached, database-bound request on a single core. Serve a cached page or a static asset off the same machine and it will do thousands. The number that decides this is your own P99 under your own traffic, not a row in a benchmark table. There is a joke buried in that data, by the way. The slowest box in the whole table was Amazon Lightsail. 2 GB, 2 cores, 10 requests per second in February. AWS sells a $5 VPS too. It is just not a very good one. Wall 2 is uptime, and this is where the marketing goes slippery. The 4 nines you see quoted for EC2 is the region-level SLA, and it only applies if you are running across 2 or more availability zones. A single instance is covered at 99.5%, 3.5 hours a month of permitted downtime. Meanwhile, DigitalOcean commits to 4 nines on each individual droplet, with 100% credit if it misses. And Hetzner docs work the example out for you. 185 minutes of downtime pays you 87 euro cents, 87 cents. Every SLA is a refund policy, not a guarantee. And before anybody uses uptime as a reason to stay put, on October 19th, 2025, US East 1 fell over for about 14.5 hours, a latent race condition in the DNS automation behind DynamoDB. One service disrupted, 141 impacted. You cannot buy uptime. You can only buy somebody else's version of it. Wall 3 ends the argument fastest: regions, compliance, and managed data. If you need SOC2 evidence you did not produce yourself, or data residency in 6 countries, or a Postgres you can restore to a specific Tuesday afternoon, you are not rebuilding that for 6 euros. You are buying it, and it is worth what it costs. And the bill you do start paying is denominated in hours. Kernel patches, backup restores you actually rehearse, because an untested backup is a rumor. Hetzner will run automated backups for about €1.20 a month, which is cheap right up until the first time you need one and discover you never tested it. 2 things moved this year, and they cut in opposite directions. Hetzner raised cloud prices on the 15th of June, 2026. The CX line only went up around 30%, which is how the CX23 landed at $5.99. The CPX line went up as much as 3.1 times, and AWS closed the on-ramp. Since July 2025, a new account gets $100 of credit, up to another $100 if you use the right services, and the free plan expires after 6 months. The account then closes itself. That 12-month runway a whole generation of engineers learned on is gone. So here is the rule I would actually hand you: 1 application, 1 database, a few hundred requests a second, and more than 100 gigabytes a month going out to users. The $5 tier wins, and it is not close. Multi-region, audited compliance, or a database where losing an hour ends your company. Pay AWS and pay it cheerfully. And if you are somewhere in between, check one number before anything else. Open Cost Explorer, filter to data transfer out, look at a single month. If that line is larger than your compute line, the money is not going into servers. It is going into bandwidth, and bandwidth is the one thing this tier gives away for free.